Hello and welcome to Let's Waffle. We're going to talk about everything in the State League. Ross Lewis here with John Townsend. Another great week of waffle, John.
It was indeed, Ross, and we're just starting to see some breakaways in the waffle competition too. That we thought it was going to be pretty even, but a couple of teams are just starting to make their move, and a couple are falling off the pace a little bit, which probably is to be expected. A month into the season, you're starting to get some trends becoming apparent, and Perth showing some really good signs. Swans, the defending premiers, showing some pretty ordinary signs too. So there's a bit on their respective plates. Both coaches, Damien McMahon took on the hot seat. Greg Harding is absolutely in the hot seat at the moment.
Now, where are we today? We like to get around to all the clubs, and we've been to the Phil Bradmore Chamber for much of last season, but this year we've decided to swing around. So where are we today?
Another West Perth player and an East Perth Premiership player too. I reckon we're in the Callum Chambers Chamber, Ross.
Callum Chambers Chamber. Now you might have some news on Callum Chambers too.
Yeah, playing for Cervantes, I think starting this week. So Callum Chambers giving a little bit back to country football, and good luck to him. Outstanding fellow, and I think there's a reunion coming up in a few weeks' time of the East Perth hat-trick, and he played in one of them during the early stages of that host club arrangement, one of those issues that's back on the agenda really at the moment.
It is, and maybe the asterisks might be taken away from East Perth's premierships in the early part of this century. That
there's no asterisks, Ross. They're all developed through their own good efforts, great coaching, all those good... the spies were out there, and the spy catchers made sure there were no spies at East Perth training during those years.
Yes, we'll bring up Claremont Zone and the schools in there later on. But looking at last week's round 4 fixtures, big winners: Claremont, South Fremantle, West Perth, and Perth getting over the line against Subi in a bit of an upset, and we'll talk a little bit about that later. But I suppose the other game, or the 5th game, a bit like the 5th Beetle, the Foxtel Cup, Williamstown really giving it to Swan Districts, and they're 0-4 in 2011. Yes,
and Swan's got a bit of heart. I mean, South Fremantle this week, so that's going to be a tough game for them. They're at home, so you'd think that if they've got anything there, they're going to bounce back. But Greg Harding, he's a new coach. He's vowed that he's going to be open and honest and candid and frank, and you can't be more frank than saying, as he said in the paper during the week, I firmly believe that it's my error, he said, about the reason that they're not going well. Well, just a little bit of advice for any coach: even if you believe that, don't say it too loudly or too often, because the president or the board or the CEO might hear it and they might actually act.
Well, Adrian Hickman's there. He's coaching the Colts, and could he be hovering? But it's very interesting.
Early days.
They do have the world's biggest football department, and not getting the runs on the board. There might be some questions asked in the boardroom about those fellows as well.
Well, Kyle Hams will play this week, you would think. Could be Hams v Hams. It will be a bacon fest up there at Bassendean. So he's one of their big name pickups. Another little bit of a skullduggery that I heard a couple of days ago, Ross. Swans went hard for Ryan Murphy as well. Now, if you've already got Ashley Hansen and Tim Gapin, two of the best forwards in the waffle comp, why would you want a third tour with Tony not there as well?
But at least Ryan Murphy would have been paying for $150 a game to give the salary cap as well.
Giving it a bit back, obviously.
What a chance of Brian Dawson? I know he's busy with some work commitments, but he is coaching the state side.
I think
could he maybe sneak in later in the season?
I wouldn't have thought so. I think Greg Harding's right for the year. I mean, things would have to go very, very bad for quite a while for there to be any issue there. One thing Brian Dawson's done, he's picked the absolute perfect time to come in and an even better time to go out. Top three finishes in his 3 seasons. He coached very well. He had a very good side that was on top of its game, and obviously he contributes to that. But he's starting to look more and more like a genius in leaving Swans at the time that he did. Work commitments, he's got a month or more in Japan later on in the year, but he's going to do the state game, so that's not going to take too much of his commitment. But the loss of Cracker, Toomey and Castle is really starting to hurt him, I think.
What about the state game? There'll be some preparation starting soon, no doubt. There'll be some boys being looked at over the next couple of weeks.
I did ask last year's chairman of selectors what was going on. He said he hadn't heard a word yet. So
maybe he hasn't got the job.
Well, that may well be the case. I mean, new coach often wants to bring in their own people, obviously. So we'll wait and see there. But that game's only about 8 weeks away. So planning will be starting pretty soon, I would have thought, against Queensland. Never lost to Queensland, and you'd think that there'll be a big win for the home team down at Rushton Park, which might come as a very rare occurrence this year.
Well, Bendigo Bank Stadium.
Bendigo Bank.
It's undergone some renovations now. Another ground which is undergoing renovations as we speak is Medibank Stadium. I understand the coach's box is having its door replaced after a little unsavoury incident
I don't know
last
if it was
weekend.
unsavoury, but I think it was certainly a moment, or actually three separate moments, one after the other. And the doors, they don't make coaching room doors as they used to do. Luckily it wasn't solid oak, because the fist came through it the third time it got wrapped on it, and a bit of frustration, I think, from the East Perth coach that something going on out in the middle. And it might have been because the clock on the scoreboard had stopped working, which doesn't do you much good when you're trying to keep up with the game at the WAFL Centre of Excellence, and the clock doesn't work and the scoreboard doesn't work. And
it wasn't umpire related though, was it?
I don't know. I don't think it was. I think it was player related, and you know, certainly if it had been umpire related, you would have known, because they're wearing bright orange fluoro like road workers now, and any attempt to not allow them to stand out has been done away with. They stand out completely. Yeah, Tony McHale very frustrated, and the door paid the price.
Now there might be some interesting developments down there too, John, that you've heard about in the course of the week.
Well, only in that I think East Perth, they're frustrated as well. They had an ordinary loss against South Fremantle to start the year. They got over the line against, well, not to start the year, I think they beat Swans first game, then lost to South when they probably thought they were very good chances.
One that got away, I think, for the Royals.
And then just got over the line against Ballarat, and Claremont really toyed with them. I mean, they were very competitive, East Perth, and in fact it was quite an absorbing game. Not a game of great highlights. So there was a spectacular mark from Simon Starling. That's the best of footy, the high marking. And although they were very competitive, East Perth, but they were outclassed, and Claremont eventually stepped away late in the piece. But some issues there for East Perth. They've got West Perth this week, they've got Subi the week after, East Freo Swans, and then Peel and Perth. So maybe not the hardest run in the world, but geez, they want to get on track pretty early, I would have thought.
Looking at that game at the weekend, Claremont and East Perth, the midfield rotation for the Tigers is just outstanding. Players, Foster, Mitchell, Brown, Brabbers and all, and the best players. It just seems that whenever a team hopes that they can get on top of the midfield, off the Tigers go with one player, and a fresher, better player comes on.
Well, Brendan Lee was outstanding too for them. I mean, Blackwell, I think, had 3 kicks at half-time in that game, and I mean, he's a Sandover medal favourite. He was the runner-up last year, and he's a highly influential player for the Tigers. But he was well held. But as you said, Swift, Brabazon was really good. Kane Mitchell probably played his best league game. I mean, they've just got so many options. They do a couple of things, Claremont. One, they're very tough in the scrimmages, so they've got a lot of bodies around the packs, and they're good at clearances. So that's one thing. That's strength and positioning. But then they run as hard as any other club. So they've got 2 really significant arrows in their quiver, I suppose. And it's you can match one and you might match the other, but you can't match both over 2 hours. And East Perth just got worn down.
13 goal kickers too for the Tigers, a great spread, and taking into account that Chad Jones is not far away from returning. He's the leading goal kicker in the competition, and they were able to kick 20 goals without him.
Yeah, he played in the Resis, kicked a couple of goals there. He'll probably play a full Resis game this week, then Claremont go to Tasmania for the Foxtel Cup game, and you'd think that he'd miss that. So
is that Claremont versus Clarence?
Yes, the battle of the class.
Wouldn't want to have a clanger.
So yeah, you'd think he'd be back. I think Claremont play West Perth the week after that, that Easter weekend, and way West Perth again. They might be 2 teams undefeated, as they were early in the season last year, I think, about round 5 or 6 last season. And that was the point where West Perth sort of went backwards, so Claremont beat them comfortably, and they struggled from there on. This time they'll meet in round 7, and Jones will be back, so you think Claremont might be better. Whether his brother's out there is another matter. He was very good. Brett Jones, very good for Claremont on Saturday. Whether he gets a chance at the Eagles remains to be seen.
Okay, John, you're a Tigers man. Big question. Can the Tigers go through undefeated?
Well, obviously
they've got the depth.
Yeah, well, is it a possibility? Of course it is. I mean, every time you go
into
lost
one after 4.
Yeah, well, so could it happen? Well, Brian Dawson made a very good point a couple of years ago. I remember that talking about Swans, might have been last year, talking about Swans going through Subi. It was 2 years ago. He was talking about Subi and can Subi go through undefeated? And he said, well, apart from 46 when East Fremantle did it, it's never been done before, and there's a good reason for it, because it's hard to maintain your intensity for that long, and there's always one day when another side's just going to get the jump on you, and that could well happen to Clermont. I mean, they were pretty good last year, and then they lost against the flow a bit to East Perth late in the season. Look, can they go through undefeated? Well, of course they can. I mean, if they play to their best every week, you're going to struggle to see anyone knocking them off. But can you maintain that for 20 rounds? Very, very difficult, I think.
Well, we haven't seen wet weather footy yet too, and once that comes in, it starts to level the playing field a little bit, even if it makes it a bit boggy as well. But that might be an interesting one, and some ruck deficiency there, although Derricks was very good.
He was competitive
on Saturday,
yeah.
So it'd be an interesting one for
Clement. Zach had nearly 50 hit-outs, so I mean, even if it's probably the most overrated, Keith Slater would hate to hear this, but it's the most overrated stat in the game, because you could win 100% of all ruck taps and not get the ball forward. So if you're winning the ball down and you can't get it away, and that's even with Lee and Brendan Hancock had pretty good games for East Perth, well, it's, Clermont are competitive, that's all they have to do.
Well, that's the end of round one for Let's Waffle for this week. We'll be back soon with the second part. Stay with us.